did this book come up for clearance? Why was clearance not given? What is the procedure for clearance of military books by top generals and chiefs? Joining me on this debate is Lieutenant General K.J.S. Dhillon, the then Director General of India's Defence Intelligence Agency. General Dhillon, welcome. You've written 3 books, including on operational matters from Pulwama to Balakot, recounting when you were Kashmir Corps Commander. How were you able to publish your book? And General Naravane, who wrote about something about 2020 India-China standoff, his book remains unpublished, sir.
Good evening, Gaurav, and good evening to all of you. To answer your question specifically, first I will give out the procedure of getting a operational clearance from the Army headquarters. If any serving or retired officer wants to publish a book which contains operational matters. My first book, Kitne Ghazi Aaye, Kitne Ghazi Gaye, contained, complete domain of the Kashmir issue, starting from 1989 right up to Pulwama, Balakot airstrikes, and abrogation of Article 370. After having written the book, I submitted the script to the Army headquarters for their approval. Now, there are 3 options which are there when a book's manuscript is submitted to the Army headquarters for approval. One is the people there, like when I was a DGDIA, I was myself approving the scripts of or manuscripts of various authors who were writing on the 3 services combined operations. So the 3 options when a manuscript comes up for approval. One is people go through the manuscript, they find nothing wrong with it, and they say, okay, approved, and there is nothing which is against the military reputation or which is unverified or which is giving out confidential operational details. So they approve the manuscript as it is. Second is they interact with the author and they tell him that we have objections on this and this aspect, line by line, para by paragraph. And the author either explains his point of view or he agrees to delete that line, which is not compatible with both the parties. Most of the times, authors give their explanation and say, okay, I'll amplify this line. So there it gets resolved. And third is if there are some serious problems with the book, that means you are giving out some operational details which may jeopardize the national security or operational plans, then the clearance is withheld, unless the author agrees to delete those chapters or paragraphs or lines. Now,
so what happened with General Naravane's? What happened with General Naravane's book, sir? Why has the General Naravane's book not seen the light of day?
Like I told you, my first book was on Kashmir. My second book was on military leadership ethos. Third book was on Operational Sandur. Within 3 months of the operation having concluded. And my book was, we interacted with the Army headquarters 30-40 times and few lines were deleted, few lines were added. And finally, I got clearance for writing on Operation Sandur within 3 months of the operation. So there is no problem in getting a clearance if you are not violating any norms. Now, coming to your specific question about why General Naravane's book. Now, see, General Naravane was a former chief. He wrote as a former chief, and the book was to be published in 2024. The pre-orders were already on various online sites. As per my information, I may be wrong, as per my information, I think General Naravane's book's manuscript did not go up for clearance from the Army headquarters or the Ministry of Defense. Now, this is a point which only General Naravane can verify or the publisher can verify. But if the book has not been approved by the military authorities and it contains operational details which can jeopardize the national security or the operational plans, then I'm afraid such a manuscript, I don't think it can be allowed to be published. But the details can only be verified from General Naravane or the publisher.
Okay, now that book remains unpublished, when certain aspects have been brought out in public domain and pre-launch copies, including some circulated in the media, I'm told by the publishers, if it gives out that impression that, the general reached out to the government at X number of hours, X situation was developing, and then 15 minutes later, 30 minutes later, 45 minutes later, 1 hour later, and the tanks were virtually eyeball to eyeball. Does that, indicate poor higher direction for war in your appreciation, considering you were there during one Pulwama, two when Balakot airstrikes took place, and when Article 370 happened, while that was more an internal security situation, and here it is vis-a-vis China, does that indicate poor higher direction, that a general has to take a call and he's feeling lonely at the top?
Gaurav, when Pulwama, Balakot strikes and Article 370 abrogation happened, I was the corps commander in Kashmir. The actions on ground, the battle drills at the sub-tactical level and the battle procedures at the tactical level, they are the prerogative of the commanders on ground. The higher direction of war or the political leadership's direction of war or the clearances are given when you have to initiate a war. When you have to start a war from zero, then the politicians or the government will say, okay, you can start the war. This is the time it's acceptable to us, or you can launch airstrikes, or you can launch surgical strikes, or whatever. Now, for that initiation of war, the political higher direction is a must as per our democratic norms. But once the war has been joined, take example of Operation Sindhu. Once we have gone in and hit those 9 terror targets, clearance to hit those 9 terror targets on the 7th of May early morning would come from the political higher direction. But after that, when Pakistan responds, Pakistan sends in the missiles and drones, nobody is going to go back to political hierarchy to say, sir, abhi drone aa rahe hain, missiles aa rahe hain, inko maru ki nahi maru. Those are the military commanders on ground who will take the decision. And those decisions are taken by the commanding officers and the brigade commanders. Not even at the Army Chief or Army Commander's level. Army Commander, Army Chief would say, this is our operational orders, these are operational instructions. Then once the battle is joined, thereafterwards, for everything, you don't go back to the highest authorities to take clearances. That's what the commanders on ground are supposed to do. Now, coming to
so
the
whether the
question,
barrel of the tank, if the Chinese tanks are advancing, and we are already on top of the Kailash Hills on QPQ operations, we've already occupied higher ground. So then if the tanks are advancing, and if, as is being said, that General Y.K. Joshi then said, I want to open up with medium RT, to open up medium RT or 155 howitzers, then political clearance is required?
Gaurav, good you talk about General Y.K. Joshi. General Y.K. Joshi has also written a book.
Yes.
In that book, on page 225, his book, the title is Who Dares Wins.
Yes.
In that book at page 225, he very clearly gives out the incident which Naravane has also referred to. And as per General Joshi, what he has written in the book, he says after Galwan in June 2020, we had started preparing for a quid pro quo.
Yes.
That means the extension of the Galwan incident in June 2020, the preparation was already on for a QPQ option or operation, which happened on the night of 29th and 30th of August at Kailash Range in Richanna area. Now, if that operation was a pre-planned operation and it had already been planned as per General Y.K. Joshi's book, Who Dares Wins, that means it was extension of the conflict which was already going on. So there is no requirement of a political clearance once the battle is already on. And as you refer to what article says, the tank ka barrel niche kar lena hai, upar kar lena, those are battle drills. Battle drills are at sub-tactical level. The tank commander who is driving that tank, he knows the enemy target is in front of him. Once the target has been clearly given to him by his squadron commander or his regimental commander, then what position his barrel should be, at what position his aiming should be, that is the prerogative of the tank commander. For that, the clearances are not taken from the highest level. That is how the battles are fought on ground.
Gen Dhillon, for joining me here on India Today. Many thanks.